isn't it?
It is a team effort.
Yeah.
Good morning once again, everybody. Welcome to Unlocking Potential Tuesday. Um, Glad to see all of you here. Um, we had a challenge, and just a quick show of hands. And Kathleen, you can give me the count. How many of you were here yesterday?
Or put yes, and also you could put a little thumbs up in the chat. So we have Elaine and Matthew, and we've got some new folks that are coming in
Oh,
today.
good.
Yeah. Yes. So you, Nishita, Sarah, Laura, you issued a challenge as well. Yep. Thank you very much. We got some thumbs up. So we have a lot of new folks, Angela.
Excellent. So, do we
Yeah.
have anybody that was here yesterday?
Yes. Laura, you were here yesterday. Exactly.
Okay. Okay. The best thing to do right now is just very quickly review what we covered yesterday.
I think that's a super
So,
good idea. Yeah.
so we focused. We're nothing if not adaptable here. So we focused a lot of time yesterday on the three categories of accessibility. At Real Life Access, we break accessibility into sorry. Voiceover on my iPhone was distracting me. This is the see, blind people don't have to worry about visual distractions, but we definitely have to worry about auditory distractions. And the auditory distractions compensate for the visual distractions. Um, so my apologies there. So Real Life Access breaks accessibility into three categories: physical accessibility, which is the accessibility of everything that we can touch or move through; digital accessibility, which is the accessibility of everything that comes to us electronically; and cultural accessibility, which is the ingraining of accessibility within your organization's culture and the embracing of the premise that difference is ordinary. So, we covered those three categories. We gave some examples, and we really talked about applying those three categories and thinking. And I gave you a challenge. I gave the folks that were here a challenge yesterday. And I said, look around your organization and identify some opportunities for improvement in accessibility. So has anybody does anything come to mind to anybody? If not, that's okay. We got for the most part we got a new group here, and that's okay. That's great.
Yeah, Angela, we've got a couple more people that have just come in. Would you just quickly, and I'll put it in the chat as well, the three categories of accessibility that you've listed are just for the folks who just came in.
Right. So the three categories of accessibility are physical accessibility, digital accessibility, and cultural accessibility. And again, cultural accessibility is probably the hardest to define because it's all about mindset. But the other two cannot be truly achieved without cultural accessibility, in my never to be humble opinion.
So
So
we
does
were looking at after our challenge yesterday, you challenged everyone to kind of take a look around, in quotes, and get a sense of in our own lives and in our workplaces, physical, digital, and cultural, right, Angela?
when it comes to accessibility. So if anybody
Exactly.
has anything, go ahead and either you can put it in the chat or you can come off mute. And new folks, if something pops into your head, feel free to share it, though you don't have to. You didn't have the benefit of the challenge question yesterday.
Yeah, and Elaine, you are on mute. Comments about accessibility. What even today, even for us, just kind of where we're at this morning, is looking around for physical, digital, or cultural areas of opportunity for accessibility? Anything come to mind that you'd like to share?
I'm not sure. Can you hear me?
Yes,
We
we can.
can.
Thank you.
I don't see myself, but I'm thinking about my son's apartment.
Hmm.
Uh, you could tell that a man created the apartment. Sorry, man, but uh, they're having a baby, and there's the closet, the railing in the closet is up so high that I can't reach it, and they have
Ah,
baby clothes hanging way up there. Now, only a man would have put a railing or a bar across the closet that high, close to the ceiling. And the same with the mirrors. I can only see my nose in the mirror. I can't see my eyes or above my hair. And the light switches are high, and they get cranky at me because I mentioned it.
ah.
You just brought up a concept that I also emphasized yesterday, and I'm sitting
Right.
here laughing because this is so perfect. Um, Accessibility benefits everyone.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, not all of us are 6'5". Um,
And some of us get shorter as we get older.
some of us get shorter as we get older, and some of us who get shorter as we get older are sighted people who kind of like to see themselves in mirrors.
That's right.
But
Above the nose.
but it also brings up a concept too that I think is important, and that we're gonna get into more today and tomorrow, and especially as we talk about what real life access can do for you. And that is that accessibility is oftentimes not as hard as you might think. Lowering that bar in the closet so that, the majority of human beings can actually reach it is not a difficult fix for someone who's handy.
Right.
Um the most difficult part of that is in an apartment complex going through the bureaucratic process oftentimes to give you permission to do it. That is harder than fixing the problem.
Well, this is their townhouse. So,
Oh, they own.
yeah, they own it. Yeah.
Oh, well, then.
Biting my tongue, biting my tongue.
That there's also the concept of being nice to grandma.
Yeah, that's right. I agree.
That is
Wholehearted.
that is one of the key tenets of accessibility.
Yeah, right, right.
Anyway, that's a great example, and thank you for my chuckle for the morning. I
Good,
appreciate that.
good, very good. Why don't I see my picture?
That is a good question to which I don't have the answer,
That's
but
okay. That's
Yeah,
okay.
don't know. Yep, yep. Yeah, your video looks like it's on, but yes. But Elaine, thanks for the input on this. And
You're
we've
welcome.
had some other folks jumping in as well, Angela.
all
We've
right.
been discussing the three levels of accessibility: physical, digital, and cultural, which you did such a great job yesterday of going over.
And
And
by the way, folks, since I know that there's a lot of new people here, we do have a replay of yesterday's recording, and I posted it on LinkedIn, and I'm so unprepared. I should have had
I'll
the link handy to put in
I'll
the
grab it.
chat.
Yeah, I'll grab it and put it in the
You
chat. Yeah, I'll
know,
grab it. Mhm. Yeah,
Kathleen is an awesome wing woman.
there you go.
And by the way, Kathleen is the coach of the coaches. So if you're a coach or a consultant, I'd like to say if you're a coach who needs a coach, she's the one. She's the one.
Thank
Um,
you.
she's honest in her feedback, and yet she's very kind and gentle. She's a lot more kind and gentle than I am. Um,
Thank you, Angela. And, I think for all of us with this challenge, the theme that you keep bringing up, and it's so important, is having our everything, our willingness to be open and to be looking, hearing, sensing, feeling,
mhm.
just everything, using all of our senses to create an environment and to be in a world where it, differences are just not really a big deal, right? That we have
Yep.
more compassion, and that was part of the chat yesterday, is where we all can win through understanding the needs of others. And yesterday's discussion was so vibrant and excellent. So I'll be sure to put it in the chat in a little bit. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and you know, and another point that I made yesterday, we all look at things through the lens of our own experience, all of us, and that includes me. Until and unless somebody comes along to broaden that lens. And one of the keys to embracing accessibility is to allow your lens to be broad and to understand that it's okay that you miss things. It's okay that maybe you didn't see that other people might navigate the world in a certain way. But you're learning, you're open to it, you're willing to make adjustments, and that's the important thing. So does anybody have anything else of the challenge before I move on to something else?
Yeah, I'd like to share. I work for a remote company, and actually, I know Angela because of the company that I work for. We used to work together. But we're remote, and so we use Slack as a primary communication tool. And I think one of the things that we're continually trying to work on is adding alt text to images.
Awesome.
And we have set up automatic reminders in the system that are posted periodically in different channels, but it's something that we're always working on. And prior to me joining this company, I didn't really have a working knowledge of accessibility. And this is one area where I'm really trying to do better. And I've really appreciated the culture of the organization I work for, because people are really invested, and we build products that are geared to being accessible for everyone to use. And it's been such a great learning experience, but I really appreciate that culture of the company of being inclusive for everyone.
Well, and the openness to learn, I found when I took the job, I found, you know, I was working with people with varying degrees of knowledge on accessibility, and that's okay. But I was working with people who embraced learning. So it doesn't matter where you start in terms of your accessibility knowledge. And it really doesn't matter what you did in the past in terms of accessibility mistakes, because we've all made them. What matters is what you're willing to learn and what you're willing to do now.
Absolutely.
So,
Angela, you also just want to mention too, for folks that are new today, you brought up so many good points yesterday that I think are important to bring it home again, which is everyone has had an experience. I think you brought up yesterday that everybody's used a ramp to bring up luggage if they're at the airport or they're going places or they're carrying things. And so, you know, or a handrail at a particular time, or the alt text, Sarah, as you were saying. So we've all been experiencing this. And now there's an opportunity with this challenge to heighten our awareness and take new actions and really step into our leadership around this. Right, Angela?
the turn signal, which I'm told many drivers in California don't use. But but the turn signal was actually an accessibility modification. Because before the turn signal was invented, people would wave to indicate which way they were turning. But then we had World War II, right? And people, you know, people came back from the war, they were missing arms, they you know, their range of motion was limited, so they couldn't wave. So the turn signal was invented to give people the opportunity to give a visual indication that they were turning, whether they could wave or not. And now we all use them. Well, we're supposed to. So you know, these accessibility things that we do, you know, we don't know how ubiquitous they're going to become until we start using them. Anybody else have anything on the challenge?
So Angela, we'll be pausing during your next section of content for questions. And I just put in the chat, what are your experiences with accessibility? But I think, if you'd like to move forward, I know you've got a lot of good content for
We
today
do.
for everyone. Yeah.
But, and we started off with a little review, and that's okay. Now, I promised you guys a discussion of the law today. That discussion is going to take place tomorrow. The technology had other ideas. The technology decided that it was going to change my program for me. But we're going to talk about money. Let's talk about money, because one of the concerns that I hear about accessibility is that it's expensive. And it certainly can be, right? You give them their truth, right? When somebody expresses a concern, the best way to address it is to give them their truth, and it certainly can be expensive. But there's also ways to mitigate the expense, and the first way to mitigate the expense is to incorporate accessibility at the beginning of the product development process. When you are making a new website, product, service, whatever the thing is, it costs considerably less money to build accessibility in than it does to remediate or to fix accessibility challenges that already exist. And now, you might be thinking, too late, Angela. My products are already built. There are 5 pillars of an accessibility of a good accessibility strategy. It's how Real Life Access has broken it down, and I'm going to give you one of them today. And that pillar is harm reduction. So say, for example, you do an accessibility audit, or somebody like Real Life Access does an accessibility audit, and you find that there's $50,000 worth of fixes that need to be made to your website, to your, whatever it is. But to fix the issues that were identified as critical will only cost you $5,000. If you fix those critical issues first, then those fixes are those are the most impactful fixes you could make. So it's not that you don't make the other fixes, because eventually we're gonna make all the fixes, right? But you prioritize the most impactful errors first. You budget that money first, and then in the coming budget cycles, you can budget for the rest. So you're spreading it out. People, when I talk to people about accessibility initially, I have to be careful, because when people look at the big picture, they look at all the things and they get scared because they think I'm telling them they need to fix all the things at once. No. Not only is that it really is, in many cases it's unrespect that, right? Because we've all got limited budgets, we've got different priorities, we've got we've got other things we need to take care of. So start with the most egregious things. Now, when you're making those investments in accessibility, there are tax incentives out there. Now, this is the IRS we're talking about, right? I read something about the formula, and it is so convoluted that I'm not even going to try to explain it here. But the point is that if you invest that $5,000 we were talking about in accessibility, you can write off a percentage of that on this year's taxes. So, make sure that come tax time, you talk to your tax person, you make sure and claim the money that you spent on accessibility, because that's helpful, and that will bring down your overall investment. Now, in some jurisdictions, and for some people, for some types of businesses, especially I think for nonprofits, there are grants that you can apply for that will help you pay for accessibility. You know, I mentioned that in one of my courses. I didn't provide links to resources because it changes all the time. And, you know, a link that I provide today might not be good tomorrow. But, you know, do look into that. Do look into that because there may be something out there. Any questions about Monday?
Angela, when you're talking about grants, and folks, feel free, put your questions in the chat or unmute or raise your hand with the reactions button at the bottom. Angela, are you finding with your clients, are they seeing more grant opportunities with state, federal, or local grants for accessibility? Do you have a point of view on that, or private grants?
I found it's pretty localized. You know, I'll
Yes.
see things for, you know, for specific states or jurisdictions. So yeah, you definitely want to check your local area, your state, your local. You know, private companies or private organizations will oftentimes say, you know, to qualify, you need to live in this state or this area.
And what are some examples of grants? What kind of projects are people getting grants for? For infrastructure, for, for physical accessibility, or for digital, or for cultural? What are some examples that might be helpful to everyone attending?
Specific improvements. So just so say for example you need to install a wheelchair ramp or you need to fix your website. Grants are always very specific. You know, if you write a grant and say I want to make my products and services accessible, the first thing they're going to ask is specifically what are you going to do. So you know, so the process when you when you audit, when you have an audit, when you have that itemized list of fixes that you can make, at that point, look into grants and see what's available because you might, you know, they have specific requirements. They have it's I hate the phrase "it depends." I really do. In fact,
Sure. Yeah.
I've forbidden real life access team members from using the phrase "it depends." No, not really. But there is a lot of variation there in terms of what specific grants are going to cover.
Right. Right. Good. And Laura, feel free to unmute yourself if you're thinking about specific grants, because you mentioned in the chat you'd like to do that. Some thoughts about where there may be some opportunities for grants for you. Good. And anyone else grants? Transportation, right? That's great.
Yep.
One thing I'll
And
put here on that too is that when we think about accommodations or accessibility fixes, oftentimes we think about what you might call the worst case scenarios. Oh, I need to install a new elevator, that sort of thing, and that's real, but it represents the very extreme end of the bell curve when it comes to most of the bell curve, and certainly the left side of that bell curve, is represented by things that cost sometimes literally nothing, sometimes maybe into three figures. When you're looking at, say, accommodating somebody who has diabetes on the job, you know, that's a real workplace accommodation. It falls into this category. It may be something as simple as buying a mini fridge and sticking it somewhere in an employment area. So there's a whole spectrum or a whole bell curve of these things, and oftentimes we think about the most extreme and get scared by that, but the vast majority of the time it's things that are readily achievable, and we'll cover that more tomorrow.
Yeah.
During the legal section as well, in the undue burdens part.
Thank you. And you just answered another concern that I hear about accessibility is hard. And like you say, people are, get scared. They get intimidated because they think they're going to have to, remodel their whole building when in fact that may not be the case at all. But one of the things that we can offer to real life access clients is the ability to just do some research and see if there are grants available. So, if that's something that you're interested in, if you do become a client of ours, that's something that we can collaborate on, because there is so much variation. I mean, if you don't like the grant picture, it's kind of like the weather. Just wait 5 minutes, it'll change.
Very nice. And Daniel, you had your hand up again. Anything else to add?
I guess I'll just chime in on the last part about the grants. A lot of them are federal, but like Angela said, there's a wide variation there, and then a lot of them are also tax incentives, and we can touch on that a little bit, but usually that's the kind of thing that we can help you, be pointed in the right direction, and sort of paint a holistic picture on that.
There you go,
you.
because
Yeah.
it really is personalized. It's personalized isn't the word. It depends on the individual situation. And I just used that phrase that I said I'd never use. Anything else about that before I move on to something else?
Angela, we don't have anything in the chat.
All right.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about dun, 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 third-party software, the bane of our existence. And I say that tongue firmly planted in cheek because I see it all the time. You build a website, you build a product, you build anything. And as part of that building process, you invest in some sort of third-party application. And they tell you, we offer a seamless user experience. And oftentimes it turns out that those third-party items are inaccessible. I'll give you an lately. When you fill out a form, when you register for something, oftentimes there's a button that you have to accept the terms and conditions. And that button is oftentimes generated by a third-party plugin. And somebody must have made an accessibility mistake on some third-party plugin, because I have seen several times over the past month or so where you can't accept the terms and conditions using a keyboard or using a screen reader. I think it's a keyboard problem, which also makes it a screen reader problem. So therefore you can't fill out the form. A wise man always says, not by your hand, but in your lap. And what that means is, as a business leader, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility, both legally and in the court of public opinion, right? Because most people aren't going to sit there and think, oh, you just hired a third-party company that sold you a bill of goods and then broke accessibility. That's what accessibility specialists are going to think, but most people aren't. Most people don't have the knowledge. But when it comes to dealing with third-party software, you have more power than you think you do. You're paying clients. So you have the ability, and this is something that also we can help you with on an individual basis if you become a real life access client. We can help you to put pressure on those third-party vendors to become accessible. The idea is to make it part of the contract, right? And it might look like saying, hey, we're not going to renew it with you guys if you don't fix these accessibility challenges. So it's it's frustrating. It's again, not by your hand but in your lap. You think you're doing good, you think you got all the accessibility, um you think you got a handle on accessibility, and then somebody else makes a mistake, and it reflects back on you. It's not fair, but it's the reality, and yet we have more power than we think we do. I think
The question in the chat is about what are some examples of software and applications of being inaccessible? What are some examples that you're seeing and you're guiding people on?
so. A lot of it comes down to third-party WordPress plugins. You build a perfectly accessible web. A payment processor. Oh, here's a perfect example. Here's a perfect example. Stripe. The Stripe payment processor has been known to make pretty significant accessibility mistakes from time to time. And I have a saying: don't make it hard for people to give you money. So, better alternatives. There are better alternatives to Stripe. There's WooCommerce. There's PayPal, which has its own problems from time to time, but those are primarily on the back end. I found the process of actually paying somebody to be pretty good. So just be mindful, and somebody says they're accessible doesn't necessarily mean that they're accessible. Any other questions about the third-party software?
Laura put in the chat, she generally sticks with well-known platforms. And so I think there just is an opportunity for others to really to embrace more accessibility and be able to provide the technology connections for it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's reasonable. I mean, one thing you need to watch out for is Canva. If you insert a Canva graphic into something, know that it's going to have accessibility challenges. So if it's like, and I have a Canva graphic on the LinkedIn event, but the information contained within that graphic is also contained within the description of the event. So, people, screen reader users don't even know. Yeah. But don't depend on Canva to provide accessible information, because they're not going to. And if they haven't there are accessibility features, but they don't work as well as we would like them to work.
So just the common apps that we use, the digital accessibility, and as you were talking about, the first pillar is really about just what are the well-known platforms that we like to use, and are they incorporating accessibility for everyone on their platforms?
Yeah, then just look into it. And if you stick with generally speaking, and again, it's not 100%, but Microsoft Zoom is better than Teams. Although Teams is usable, and it may be part of that may be Angela's preference. I like Zoom better. Microsoft, Google, in terms of collaboration, I like Google Docs better. Although the Microsoft products both have come a long way in terms of accessibility. HR software is really tough. You know how you know you're working for a company and you manage your benefits, and I have yet to find an HR management system that's accessible. So that's definitely an opportunity for somebody's going to come in and they're going to develop an accessible HR management software, and they're going to make a lot of money because nobody doing it. Okay, anything else? And we got 20 minutes. So anything else on third-party software?
Until I don't see anything in the chat, Laura is commenting about, I think there's some back and forth about Teams and Microsoft and different applications.
Mhm.
Good feedback here. Yeah. So, Matthew, if you'd like to take yourself off mute, if you'd like to ask the question, or I can read it.
Yeah,
Thanks for this great
absolutely.
question. Yeah. Thanks, Matthew.
So when evaluating third-party softwares, what are some things that we should be mindful of and look for to ensure its accessibility?
Right. So take a look at and take a look at the website and see if they have an accessibility statement that isn't just a bunch of boilerplate legalese. See if they have what is called a VPAT, and it's an acronym which stands for Voluntary Product Accessibility Template.
Angela, repeat that one more time, okay?
Right. Yeah, I know.
Super important. Yeah.
And for those of us that are acronymically challenged, yeah, here we go. So VPAT stands for Voluntary Product Accessibility Template. That is the company's self-reporting as to whether or not they meet the web content accessibility guidelines level AA. So whether or not they're legally compliant. Now, again, I've called VPAT the used car salesman of the accessibility world, right? Because people you can it's all self-report. But you'll be able to tell if it's too good. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If it's not filled out completely, that's a red flag. If there are details as to what is inaccessible about the product, then that's a positive. Now, for real life access clients, we can go in and we can do some research, and we can help you to decide on the best third-party software to use, depending on what you're trying to do.
And then Laura put in the chat. Laura, if you'd like to unmute, and you've made so many great points here. You've got a lot to contribute. Feel free to jump in, or we can just read the chat. Seems as though, Angela, that websites that require a username and a password and all kinds of detailed things can be kind of tedious for accessibility concerns. However, then we also get in, and I know you consult with clients on, the security implications of that as well, right?
So, this is a point of frustration for me, because usually the way it works is there's accessibility over here, there's security over here, and never the two shall meet. And it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. There are ways that that so take the CAPTCHA, for example, right? The challenge that you sometimes have to go through to log into things. they started several years ago providing audio capture options. And the audio capture options vary in the degrees of understandability. Some of them are so garbled that, you know, people with normal hearing can't understand them, let alone somebody that, you know, that like myself that's hard of hearing. So, yeah, but there are accessible options out there. Oh, what is it? I think the reCAPTCHA, you just check the box that says you're not a robot, and it lets you in. But it's something that that we could certainly help you look into, and make sure that you've got solutions that are both accessible and secure.
Angela, and so you also wanted to talk, you talked about the first pillar, and you also mentioned, you know, about different standards, specifically, you know, around the VPAT, and put that in the chat. Anything more that you wanted to say about that? Because we're at quarter till the hour.
Man, time flies when you're having fun.
Sure
No,
does, doesn't it?
you know,
Yeah.
we're gonna get into the legal standards tomorrow. The first pillar is harm reduction, so basically a big announcement to make. And Kathleen, I know we didn't plan on this, but I'm gonna ask you if you've got it handy to go ahead and put the product page in the chat. I will be launching, starting the week after Labor Day, a group coaching cohort. And what we're going to do in this group coaching cohort is we are going to take a fictional business that I made up, and we're going to solve that business's accessibility challenges for them. So these are real life examples of accessibility. Now, this cohort is going to run for 4 weeks. It's going to be, you know, depending on who signs up, where the dates are the dates are flexible. You know, I had some dates if they're going to be available. What do you mean by having the date scheduled right now? But it's going to be based on the three. We're really going to take a deep dive into the three categories of accessibility: physical accessibility, digital accessibility, and cultural accessibility. And the name of the group coaching cohort is going to be Show Me What Accessibility Looks Like. And the price of this group coaching, and you know, you can thank Kathleen for this, okay? I was going to charge a lot more, but she talked me into, you know, giving you guys a break. It was going to be $11.97, but because Kathleen is such a nice person, we dropped it down to $7.97 for the duration of this challenge, and for about a week after. And then I'm going to raise the price at some point, because, you know, that's how I roll. But right now it's $7.97. So go ahead. Do you have that?
Yes, Angela, I've just put it in the chat right now. And this is an incredibly comprehensive program that is so important. And the whole site goes into, and it is accessible, thank goodness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you list all of the details of this program, and it's it's a combination of group coaching along with individual. You're offering some one-on-one sessions as well, which is really, really
You
terrific.
get, you get if you sign up for this, you get three things. You get access to my physical accessibility course. You get a free 60-minute consultation with me. And you get the 4 group coaching sessions. So, man, I can't believe I let Kathleen talk me into charging this little for that.
Oh, Angela, this is a launch
Yeah,
investment.
I'm
Yeah.
just teasing you,
Yeah, I
Kathleen.
know it. I know
I'm
it.
just giving you a hard
I know
time.
it. I
No,
know.
we mutually agreed on that.
Absolutely.
But
And
but
the return on, yeah, the ROI is huge on this because you're going to lead everyone through the process.
tongue in cheek aside,
Yeah.
it really is a good deal.
Absolutely. And you've got with the website, you've got all of the topics that are so important. You're going to pace all this. Plus, if folks cannot make the group sessions, you are also going to offer the replays as well. You've got those on your private and unlisted YouTube channel. And this is
If you
really
miss a session, yeah, if you miss a session, you will have access to the replays. So don't think, oh, I can't make 4 group coaching sessions. And there's going to be reviews at the beginning of each session. They're going to be longer than these. We're looking at max 90 minutes, but it's going to be anything between 75 and 90 minutes depending on how many questions. So there's going to be more time to really take a deep dive into things.
And this is important to take this from theory and talking about it to actually taking action, Angela,
Yeah.
right? That's really the intention of your boot camp, is that
It is.
people
It
can
is.
get in the game and start taking action. And tomorrow, Daniel Hodges is going to talk about the legal impact and ramifications, essentially doing the work before you're commanded or reprimanded or have
Mhm.
to do the work, making those important changes now,
Yep.
as opposed to having to do it and suffering the possible ramifications of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
Great. And Angela, for those folks that have questions about the boot camp, what's the very best way for people to reach you, to contact you if they've got questions about the boot camp?
right, shoot me an email at Angela at ANGELA at reallifeaccess.com.
Great. And I also put that in the chat. Great. Good.
And feel free, if you know somebody who might benefit, share the information. I'm going to be putting it out there either later today or tomorrow. I'm going to have the replay posted today. Probably put it in the LinkedIn event for starters, and then I'm gonna put both the replays on a separate web page and then get it out there to people so that they can take advantage of this, because this is important.
Great. And Angela, with our remaining 8 minutes left, what are were there some recaps of what you've talked about thus far, what you've shared with the group about do no harm, harm reduction, any of the pillars, any of the, you mentioned yesterday, we talked about do good by doing good, taking action. The three types of accessibility. Any other recaps for today? And certainly any questions, put them in the chat.
Just know that it's not as daunting as it looks. You look at the big picture, and I've seen people do this. They look at the big picture of their company and look at all the potential accessibility challenges that exist, and then they recoil because it just seems too much. But Mount Everest was not climbed in a single step. Never was and never has been. So no matter how daunting you think the challenges are, take it step by step, and you might not even be climbing Mount Everest. You might be climbing some gentle hill in Appalachia. We don't even know. We haven't even looked at your products and services yet. So just one step at a time. We're gonna get there. and as long as you are actively working on accessibility, it's going to stand you in better stead in terms of both the law and the court of public opinion. I think I can say that safely, right, Dan? The law is such a complicated thing, and we'll get into it tomorrow. The reason I don't talk about the law is because I got to be really careful what I say, and that has never been my strong suit. I tend to say whatever comes to my mind. But does anybody have any other questions?
Angela, we don't have any in the chat. And just a reminder about tomorrow's program featuring Daniel Hodges, an attorney, is going to talk about accessibility, and it's going to be a very powerful program too. And Angela, anything? I don't have anything in the chat, and perhaps people would appreciate us giving them back a few minutes before the top of the hour.
I think we can give our people 5 minutes back.
Yeah, there you go.
Well,
Good.
thank you all for coming. It has been fun. This session flew by at the speed of light. And I will see y'all tomorrow.
See you
Good.
tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Thanks for everyone attending. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.